welcome to Sober Dad Crew, the podcast where we talk about all things dad, sobriety, recovery, parenting, music, tattoos, and more. For more information or to get in touch, visit soberdadcrew.com. My guest for this episode is Art Alexakis, founder, singer, and songwriter for the band Everclear, which is celebrating its 30th anniversary and just released the album live at the Whisky A Go-Go. We talk about parenting, music, sobriety, Portland, Oregon, and more. Art, welcome to Sober Dad Crew. Good afternoon.
Good morning.
That's right. It's morning out there. How are you?
Yeah. Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. So I was actually living in Portland, Oregon from 1990 to about 96. And that's when your band started and just really totally launched. Did you think you're going to be doing this 30 years later?
Well, not really. I thought I'd be doing music. I didn't know if I'd be doing it by myself or I'd be doing it with another band. I always think most bands, from the old model, the old school classic rock model, have about 4 or 5 records in them. But I still feel like what I do is relevant and the fans like it. And we've been slowly but surely, and not so slowly lately, in increasing our fan base. Most people from the 90s fan base has just diminished, and ours did some of that, and it's building back up again. I think it's because I still have fun doing this. If I didn't have fun doing it, I'd do something else.
Yeah, and I was listening back to so many of the songs, and I think that's it too. So many of your songs, you're like a really human songwriter. And I think those songs just resonate with people, I think you're really personal and you're open. And I think to me, that's part of it.
I appreciate that. Actually, I don't think anyone's ever called me a very human songwriter. I love that. I agree. I'm interested in the human experience. I'm not interested in Dungeons and Dragons or talking about girls or, I don't write songs like that. A lot of people do, and some are great. I mean, I love Rush, Zeppelin, Yeah, I love that. I love some of that stuff, but that's not me. I like storytelling. So overwhelming majority of my songs are from the first person, which lends people to believe that they're all autobiographical. They're not. About a third of them are. And then about a third of them I take from different things in my life or different ideas or things I know or things I read about and put it all together and create composite characters within a story frame. And then the other third is I just come up with a story and write it. I come up with a character and write it. And so if I'm doing my job as a writer, you can't tell which is which.
Right.
And that tends to be the case a lot of times.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2 children. I have an older daughter who still lives in Portland. She's 31. And then I have my youngest daughter who's 2 weeks away from being 16. And
I have one of those. She's yeah. And I have 4 now. So I have a 20-year-old son, a 16-year-old daughter, and then 2 stepkids who I don't think of them as stepkids. They're just like, I love them, like they're my kids.
Your kids.
Yeah.
Sure.
And they're 7 and 11.
Oh, that's cool. Blended family. I mean, a blended family, that's the new American standard, really.
Yeah. I mean, it takes some work for sure.
Yeah, it does. Ask my wife now about my eldest daughter, and and she was young. She was young when she was only 10 years older than my daughter, and that created some friction. But it's like I knew when I met my wife, she was younger than me, but she was more mature than me. She was an old soul. I've had younger girlfriends and wives and older girlfriends and wives. And, sometimes people's chronological age doesn't match who they are inside. And my wife was an old soul and so compassionate. And she said she never wanted children. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I got a kid. That's cool. And then she changed her mind. And she's the mom now that every other kid wants to go over to our house because of my wife. She's that mom. She's young, she's pretty, but she's constantly making sure everybody's okay and taken care of. She's a caregiver.
Yeah.
And I am too. I'm attracted to that for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. My wife's a social worker, so I'm definitely attracted to that, and attracted to someone who's, out there in the world trying to
Make the
right
world a
some of the
better place,
wrongs.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
help
Yeah.
people who have struggled.
She's doing what we learn in the program. She's being of service
Right.
with her job. I try to
Absolutely.
be of service with my job. You're being of service with this podcast and talking to people, and it's something that early on in my sobriety I understood, but I didn't really grasp it. And now it's something that is the most important part of my sobriety and my program is being of service.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just got asked to be the secretary of my home group, which
Nice.
is real, it's a Zoom meeting, but yeah, it's a big deal to me, and I'm excited. So I start not next week because I got to do the old man thing of getting a colonoscopy on
Um,
on Halloween afternoon.
yeah. Oh,
And
good. Yeah, trick or treat, right?
I'm not. My wife's going to a party, and I'm like, I don't think I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So
Safe bet.
yeah, if I don't go, I'm just going to be at home and kind of drowsy on my Zoom meeting. But
Yeah.
I'll start secretarying the next week, so I'm excited about that.
Did you always think you were going to be a dad?
Yes, I always wanted to be a dad. Even from the time I saw the Beatles when I was like 4 years old, 3.5, 4 years old, I I knew that I wanted to do that. I wanted to play in bands, and then my brother would play in bands. And as I was a kid growing up, and friends of mine playing garage bands, and it was like it was like magic to be a part of that stuff. And so I always wanted to do that, but I honestly never wanted to have like the David Bowie kind of rock star or Jimmy Page with his girlfriends back in the day. I had a different sense of morality about that. I wanted, since I was living in a housing project, I could envision a couple of rungs up. I wanted a house, picket fence, wife, kids, and I wanted to go to work and play rock and roll. That's what I wanted. I never thought I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be a guitar player, but things happen.
Yeah.
And but I'm living a life now where I have a nice house in Pasadena, not a fancy house by anyone's standards, but it's in California, so it's expensive
Right.
because a fixer-upper here is $1 million house. I have wife, family, sober fellowship, a pool in the backyard where I can swim because it's the main exercise because I have MS of doing that and not getting overheated. So I feel blessed, man. 100% blessed that I have everything I could want, really, because I don't want things I don't have. I've never been that guy that wanted to make billions of dollars. It just sounds like a lot of work.
Right. What are you going to do with like 10 cars? Right. You just need a big garage.
How much money do you need? Seriously.
Right. No, I agree.
How much food do you need? I want to have a nice car. I want my wife to have a nice car. She does. I got a car that I'm going to drive for a couple of years and give to my daughter when she's 17 in about a year and a half and give it to her. And I don't know what I'll do, but yeah, man, I got a nice, safe house and me and my wife are like, we don't ever want to move, ever. Her mom is going to probably end up living with us. I'm going to do a remodel next year to what we call an ADU and turn it into a grandma house out in a garage. And And, you know, but for the most part, Arizona, my daughter's going to go to college and she's going to move away. And we're going to have this, if I had a big ass 3,000 or 5,000 square foot house like I had in Portland, what am I going to do with that? You know, I don't need that. I'm not greedy. I really am not greedy. Now, when I was doing drugs, I could be greedy.
Yeah, well, that's a different deal. And I always think about how much do you need when you just walk around. I mean, I got to work, was it last week or the week before? And it's downtown Ithaca, New York. There's just a guy in the parking lot, no jacket, no shirt. And I always have stuff in the car for when my kids play soccer because it gets cold. And I just run in there and I was like, hey man, take this jacket. I hope I hope it fits. Like I don't need that jacket. I got lots of other jackets, and it's this
you go and you can get a jacket if you need a jacket.
right.
You know, yeah, I know, man. This lady outside of the supermarket yesterday, they kicked her out from the front. She was out in the parking lot asking for money, and I could tell she was wasted. And sometimes I'll talk to people and I'll just be like, brother, you don't have to be like this. You can never drink or use again. I'm proof of it. There's proof
Right.
that this works. But this woman was beyond that. And I gave her, she asked for $1, I gave her $2. I walk away to the car and start crying. I get in the car. I knew it was coming on. I get in the car. I just start crying because it's pity. And it's not compassion. I do have compassion, but pity is not a good
Yeah.
emotion. That's when it seems pretty hopeless. And I got back out of the car and I walked over there and I gave her 220s. She goes, and she's like, she's looking at it and she goes, is this a mistake? I go, no, baby, it's not a mistake. I go, please, whatever else you do with it, please get something to eat. Will you promise me that? He's like, yeah. And I went back and cried again. I'm about to cry
Yeah.
now.
It's heavy out there. It's heavy. The world's
Yeah,
heavy
but
right
God
now.
bless you, man. We're being of service. And I agree. I've done that too. I've like seen people without shoes and just like, I wear these sandals. I go, hey man, you like these sandals? He goes, yeah. I go, you want them? He goes, what are you gonna wear? I go, I got more shoes at home. You want these sandals? I gave a guy in Australia my sandals.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. If you came to my house, you'd know we got a lot of shoes at home. We are
But you got
overly
4
abundant
kids.
in shoes. Well, and mom and dad's shoes. We might have some shoes.
I love shoes.
Yeah.
I kind of, if the word fetish was being bandied around, it'd be close to it. When my wife met me, she came to my house in Portland and she's like looking, I'm showing her the house and she sees the walk-in closet and stuff. And then there's a door there. And she goes, what's behind the door? I go, you really want to know? She's all like, oh shit, this guy's going to get weird. There's going to be like a
Right.
torture room or something. Go open it up. She opens it up. Lights come on. It's a shoe closet. It's like about 4x4, 3x3 shoe closet. And she looks in there and she's just like, I love you.
That was a do or die moment, right?
Oh, dude, that was like, yeah, I didn't know how she was going to take it, but yeah, that was like an aphrodisiac for her. She goes, and then later when we bought our house like about 5 years ago, it didn't have a big walk-in closet. And so I got this guy to build one and she has her lit up, Sex in the City like shoe closet where when you turn the lights off in the room, the lights on the shelves come up and all her shoes are there. And yeah, that makes her pretty happy.
It's simple in a way. Shoes, right?
Yeah, yeah, but you know what? It's like we were talking before. It's like a luxury. She wears all those shoes. She does, and We don't keep things we don't use. I give them to the Salvation Army.
Yeah.
I'd rather just give it to people. But boy, you try to give away stuff on eBay, people lose their minds. They're going to sell it.
Oh,
Everybody.
yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's trying to buy your stuff. Yeah. I got a bad back. Like I had this mattress that had belonged, it was like not even a year old, but it would belong to me and my previous wife. I was about 2 years old. And my wife now, when we were moving in together, is like, can we get a new mattress? I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's start fresh, new mattress. That's cool. And she goes, okay, well, I go, well, you got to figure out. I'm touring, so you got to figure out how to sell this one. And she sold it to this guy that told him he had a big bad back and he was disabled, and his wife was disabled. And these two 25, 28-year-old people come over to get the mattress. And I'm like, are you the guy I talked to on the phone? Goes, yeah. I go, you said you had a bad back and you're disabled. He goes, well, I threw my back out a couple of years ago and it was really bad. And I'm just like, I gave him a $2,500 mattress for $500. And I got some of that resentment, I needed to 10-step that resentment for sure. But now it's just like, whatever, man. That's your thing. I'm like,
Yeah. I think that stuff catches up with people. We were
it
talking to one
does.
of our kids last night about honesty, how honesty is like really just one of the most important things. Because if people don't trust you, it's easy to lose trust. And it's really fucking hard to get it back.
Really fucking hard. It's damn near impossible. My mother, hillbilly that she is, taught me that when I was younger, of like people, once they get a bad impression of you, it's hard to lose it. And she's right. I feel that way about just about anything. You've really got to show me before I'm going to change my opinion. And we tend to go towards the negative, but it tends to play out, as time goes, it tends to prove us right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I mean. But yeah. So was that your older son, your 20-year-old?
No, it was the youngest. There's a little email from school. So, we
Oh,
sat down on the couch. He's 7. He's a kid. He's trying to figure it out, but you gotta learn. No, the oldest he's solid, man. He's one of the most highly ethical people I know. He's a deep feeler, wants to fix the world, which is incredible, but it's also like hard to be that person because the world's feeling real messy.
I'm 61, dude. It's always been messy. And you always think it can't get worse. And just don't challenge the universe, man.
Yeah, especially recently.
Well, challenge accepted. I mean, yeah. Fuck, we haven't had a House of Representatives for what, almost a month now?
I know.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a fucking shit show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but it's not gonna it's always gonna be like that. It really is. And the way I look at it, what you're doing is talking to your son about building blocks and principles and building foundations. And that's what you do. It's like this morning, my wife and my daughter got into it because she comes out of her bedroom wearing a shirt and a fucking a bra pushed up to make her look like she's got boobs. He doesn't. And it's just like, it's, she's not an anomaly. She goes to the California High School of the Arts. All those kids look like that. Doesn't matter if they're Hispanic, white, African American, big, tall. Girls are doing that, and they're thinning out their eyebrows, and they're going on internet and learning what other kids do, right? And it's just like, and my wife's frustrated because she ruined this bra. And it was a $60 bra. And, you know, we've both got pretty, I'm not a cheap guy by any, but I try to be thrifty and
Yeah.
try to be responsible and try to impart that to my daughter. But I had a good talk with her. I was taking her to get her train because she takes a bus and a train, but if she's late, she wouldn't have been late, but my wife and her kind of got into it a little bit. And I just talked to her and I said, you should reach out to your mom and apologize because she was right. And you admitted she was right. You should tell her that. That way she doesn't.
Apologizing's hard.
My daughter has a lot of me in her. Yeah, a lot of pride, a lot of that she hasn't spent 50 years, 60 years learning about and going to meetings and, you know, reading and working on the countless hours of therapy. She's, like you said, the kids are trying to figure it out, man. They're not trying to be bad people. They're just trying to figure it out. And I applaud that. And she did. She wrote her mom. It was a little vague. But
this reminds me, and you're in this documentary, The Other F Word.
Yeah.
So, you know, here we are like tattooed dads and all that. And it's interesting in that parenting role when you kind of view yourself as someone a little outside of the mainstream and all that. And then you're like, oh, right, but I still have to parent my kid in the way that they deserve to be parented.
Exactly.
Right, with love and respect. And
but guidance and discipline. And well, I'm not talking about corporal discipline. I'm talking about drawing boundaries and having a cause and effect. And, you know, I don't necessarily believe in punishment. I just believe in, like, if you want the privileges that you have, i.e., your phone, which is like an appendage for a 16-year-old, that's how you get them to think about things. It's like, we'll take it away for a day or for a weekend. And man, let's talk about straighten up and fly right.
And who's getting punished there? Whew, mom and dad a little bit.
Well, you know what? I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. Yeah, you're gonna be pissy at me. Okay. But go easy. Remember, I'm older and I come from a time where you don't do that. And you can be upset, you can be angry, but don't be abusive.
Yeah.
And we're not abusive to you. You're not abusive to us. If you're upset, take a breath, take a pause, do all this stuff that I've learned in the program and through therapy. But when we're calm, then let's talk about it. And you know what? My daughter has never seen me. Neither of my daughters have ever seen me drunk or high. I'm 34 years. Now they've seen me act badly, especially my older daughter. And we've got issues. We're estranged right now. We've been estranged for a while. She's estranged from her mom as well. She's just kind of going through it. But she's a good girl. She finished grad school and she's kicking ass. And so that's a different matter. With the younger one, I just try to stay consistent, you know. But me and my wife just try to have a unified front, and which isn't always easy because we believe different things and we come from different generations. So there's that. But I always look at this kind of adversity as just a problem to be solved with patience, understanding, and just you know, putting your daughter first, putting your child first, which my mom did. My dad didn't do it, obviously.
Yeah.
But I broke that cycle, you know, and a lot of men don't. And my dad comes from a long line of men, his family that abandoned his children, one way or another. And I had to learn to break that cycle. And I learned it from my mother. She taught me. I was raised by a single mom. I was taught to be a man by a single mom.
Yeah, and it's hard as a dad. It is so hard for me to fathom. Like I would die for my kids. It is so hard for me to fathom like walking away. I cannot compute it in my brain.
Right. It's like you got 4 kids, right? I'm going to ask a question I already know the answer to. You ever watch your kids sleep? Just watch them
Yeah.
sleep all the time. It's cheap entertainment, right? You're just like, how the fuck did we do this? You know, how, I'm a fuck up. How did I do this? And I remember watching my daughter sleep when she was 4 or 5, and just, I went, and then I just thought of like when I was 4 or 5, my dad wasn't there. I'm like, literally, and I'm not trying to be mean here. And I said it to my wife. I go, how does a man walk away from that? How do you walk away from this? I don't get that. I couldn't do it. You know, my mom told me a long time ago when I was young, she goes, son, moms and dads, sometimes they grow apart and they shouldn't be together because they stay together. There's anger and there's all sorts of bad things that come from it. That's okay. But what a real man does, he doesn't move to the other side of the country and marry someone else and raise their kids. That's what my dad did. So it's kind of passive aggressive.
Yeah.
But she was right. She goes, what a real man does is he moves down the street and he raises his children. In other words, he stays close by and he's a cognizant dad. And even if he gets married again, he never treats his children like they're second class citizens. He raises them. And I believe that my whole life, and I still believe it to this day. That's what a man does. That's what a woman does. That's what a grown adult does. That's what anyone who agrees to be a parent, to have the honor and responsibility of being a parent, does. Being a sober dad, it's better in some ways because I've learned a lot. I've been through the fire and back, but at the same time, I'm cognizant of my addicted mind, my addicted behavior, and it's a motherfucker. Me as a there's a song on one of our records, an album called Black is the New Black. It's the last full record we made back in 2015. And it's a pretty heavy rock record. And there's a song on there called Complacent. And it's basically like about the guys that everybody knows that just, our age, was partiers with us when we were younger, never got sober, right? He's that guy. And he's in his 40s and 50s and still fucking acting like it's the endless party. And it's a bad look.
It's a very bad look. They also look fucking terrible. They look like
horrible.
They're like 90.
Fuck
I'm a little vain, so like sobriety is good for my vanity. But
how old are you?
I'm 52.
Dude, I thought you were like 42. You look great. You do.
Thank you.
I'm 61 and I work hard to take care of myself. And partly because I have an autoimmune disease, so diet is a big deal and exercise is a big deal. But the real bad look is just being that potential fuck up that was kind of funny in your 20s and even a little bit in the 30s, but it's not funny anymore. And that's what this character is talking about. Is I used to make you laugh. You're not laughing anymore. I guess it's not so funny anymore because his wife got a restraining order on him.
Yeah.
you know, and there's a part of me goes, I promise not to beat up your brother. I promise not to hit anybody. And then there's a pause. And then it's like, as long as no one fucks with me, it's that kind of attitude. It's like, sure, man, I'll be complacent. I'll do that. But don't fuck with me. Then it's not up to me anymore. I don't have power over it. Those guys.
Right. And if those
And
guys are dads, like what are
yeah,
the kids learning?
well, there's a line in it. My kids are ashamed of me. My kids won't talk to me. They're ashamed of me. They're tired of it all. Because the kids are going to grow up and just go, man, dad, fucking figure it out. Yeah, mom left you. Of course she did.
Long list of reasons.
Long list of reasons,
Because
Plus, you look like
kids don't
you
ask, right? They're born, right?
yeah, no,
It's all
that's
on us.
that's our choices, and I'm very big into choices. And you make the choice. And let's be realistic. So you're 52. I'm 61. Our parents and the parents before them, a large part of them had children, but didn't want children. Got married, didn't want children. And you know the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of that abuse came from, because it was fucking resentment. And who are they going to resent? Who are they going to take it out on? These little people that can't fight back. And it's just this psychological mind fuck of like people who didn't want kids. So when people tell me we don't want children, we're married and we're having a great time, I'm like, God bless, man. Awesome.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
It's a lot of work.
My nephews. It's a lifetime worth of work. It's never over. When is it over? Ever. Never. When do you stop loving your child? Never. When do you stop worrying about them? Never. Yeah, you have to let them learn and fall and get and have some adversity so they develop a fire in their belly. That's hard to do for me because I had nothing as a kid. So now I wanted to, I helicopter the fuck out of my daughter, and I have to work really hard not to.
Yeah, we talk about putting up guardrails. Part of the job is keeping them from flying off the road. They got to like work their way around the road, figure out what lane to be in. And the guardrails when you're 7 are different than the guardrails when you're 16. So the guardrails can shift, but the goal is always not to fly off the road. Try not to cross the double yellow, but you might get a ticket, as it were, but don't fly off the road.
See, I absolutely agree with that, but you got to remember there's people like me and other addicts that don't even know what a fucking lane is.
Right.
How am I going to stay in a lane when I'm just like, I want to go there, but the road goes that way. I don't care. I'm going there. And it's like, it's impressive. My tenacity, my drive, all that stuff. I don't know if I'd have had it if I hadn't been beaten and raped when I was 8 and abandoned by my dad when I was 6 and all those things, and grew up in a housing project. I wouldn't probably have the drive that I have. And I sure as hell wouldn't have the PTSD or the triggers or the damage that I have. But one of the things that I think I'm sure you'll agree with is regardless of the damage that everybody has some level of damage, is the goal is to not give it to our children or give them realistically as little damage as possible, giving our children less damage than our parents gave us. That's the deal.
And that's the work, right? That's the therapy. That's the program. That's the being hyper honest with yourself.
And with your partner.
It takes intentionality. We talk a lot in my family about being intentional about, how we act and what we do. And, and that's how we built our relationship we met in COVID, we freaking met in a pandemic and managed to blend families and navigate that.
So were you a single dad at the time when you met her?
I was,
And
and
so,
I had, I had dated, over the years, but never met anyone that was like Alexis, just that was magic. So I spent a lot of years as a single dad, which, it's rough financially. Like I'm professional, I do all right, but paying all that stuff on your own is tough.
yeah, it
Yeah,
is. It is.
those early years, I had a 2-bedroom apartment with 3 of us, and I slept in the living room and gave the kids the bedrooms because what you do,
That's that's what you do. That's what I would do. And I grew up like that. I remember a 2-bedroom apartment that was luxurious,
right?
dude. So me growing up, before my brother died when he was 21, when we first moved to the project, we shared a bed. We shared a bedroom and a bed. Brothers in a bed. He was older. We weren't going to get a fucking uh, bunk beds. That
Right.
wasn't going to happen. It was just a bed. And he used to smoke in the bed and he'd sit on the edge of the bed and sniff glue. And yeah, that was my life. I had a bizarre life growing up.
Yeah, I mean, because you kind of started using pretty young.
I'm really young. Smoked pot for the first time when I was 9. Started drinking. I remember my mom gave me a sip of beer when I was 4, and it tastes like candy. It tastes like just candy.
So many people
And
say that first sip. I had a guy
not
on, and
alcoholics.
yeah, he talked about, I don't know, they were 12 or 13, and they had like warm beer out of the car, and all his buddies were like, blah, blah, and he was like, "Oh, I've
This is
found my way home."
Yeah, this is awesome. And you get that buzz and that burn. And I remember that when I was 6 or 7, my brother and his stoner friends would hang out and I'd be finishing their beers. And then I like, my mom never had alcohol in the house except for like at Christmas time. She'd buy a little thing of bourbon. My mom wasn't an addict. My dad wasn't an addict, but they had addicts in their family and alcoholics in their family. And I don't know. Me and my brother, we got the gene, man, and the PTSD from all the damage and stuff like that just exacerbated it. But none of my sisters are like that. Same mom and dad, just me. But yeah, I started young. I loved being drunk. You know, drunk. I would go to friends' house who have parties, and we clean up, and we just drink whatever's in the bottom of the glass or beer bottle. We take it to the kitchen. Honey, you and Arthur clean up these bottles. Okay, I'll give you $2 to do that. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Jensen. And and dude, even if I had a cigarette butt in it, I didn't fucking care. I'd take the cigarette butt out and throw it away and muscle it down. I didn't care.
Yeah.
I that's how hardcore I was when I was a kid. You know, and I've always been that way. I put the child first. The song is the God. That's my motto in life. I don't care about you wanting to have a lead part or this or that. Fuck you. The song dictates what we do. That's how I've always been as a musician, and the same way as a parent. But boy, when I was chasing the buzz was the God. The buzz dictated how I acted, where I was, what I was doing. It was all for the buzz, for that dopamine buzz. And because that was the only time I felt normal. I felt, you know, like I belonged in my own skin was when I was buzzed or high. Whether it was white drug, down drug, up drug, didn't really matter. It was all of it.
So what was it that made you want to get sober? Like what was the thing? Did you try more than once?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so when I was like 22, I had like shot up so much that cocaine and speedballs were my thing. And I went out. I tried to put almost 3/4 of a gram in one shot, which is ridiculous, into my arm. And I went into cardiac arrest in some nasty house in Orange County at 3 o'clock in the morning. And the people owning the house, their kids were asleep in the room and in their bedrooms. And they ran out, freaking out, because we'd been doing drugs all night. And thank God the guy next door was an EMT and he came home to use the bathroom, right? Him and his partner came home and these people came out running and the guy just went right to his truck, got the defibrillators, and he knew that he was living next door to a bunch of junkies. Came in right in the room, hit me up, and I came back. And I, I shot up more that night, but it left me with this weird physical feeling. And I stopped doing hard drugs and I started having anxiety attacks like a couple months after I stopped using the drugs. My body and my system didn't know how to handle not being medicated. And I was still drinking though. And then I kept drinking, but I knew I was having a problem. And I had a friend in a band who was in AA and he'd take me to meetings and I would go with them, but I couldn't surrender. I had too much ego. I had too much fear. And I liked going there because there was all these hot girls with problems that I
Sounds
could
like a
take
song.
advantage. Oh, you think? And that I could take advantage of. And I didn't think, wow, I'm going to take advantage of them. But my alcoholic mind, that reptilian mind, that reptilian brain, it knows what's fucking going on. It can smell the blood in the water.
And a lot of people then transfer, right? They might stop drinking or whatever, but then they start being the crazy dating person, right?
I call it dating. I was a sex addict.
Yeah.
I was a control addict. I was addicted to control, power, shame, anything that the drama, just fighting, anything that created dopamine.
Yeah.
And even after I got clean and sober in 1989, and I actually surrendered and first stepped it just powerless over alcohol, I had a hard time getting into meetings, even though I had a sponsor. I went through the steps. And then when fame happened, I didn't know how to handle that shit. I started playing in bands when I was 16.
I guess I just think about Sparkle and Fade, but it was everything before that.
But Sparkle and Fade was our second album.
Yeah.
Our first album, World of Noise, was bigger than anything I had before, but it was at the indie level. And before that, I had a band called Color Finger that was me singing. So I had 4 bands where I had written all the material, produced all the material, and put it out on my own labels or whatever. So when people go, oh, yeah, this happened quick for you, I'm like, fuck you. Politely,
Yeah.
fuck you. I worked hard for fucking 15 years playing in bands, going on tour as tech, as a front of house guy, as a tour manager. No, I paid my dues. And for the guys in my band, it came pretty quick. They were 8 years younger than me. They were 23, 24 when it happened for them. They had been in a couple of local bands in Portland, and that had been it. But they got with me, and I was driven. I was, and people in Portland, other people in bands who were almost all trust fund kids, right? They're like, man, this guy wants success. He wants to be able to make a living from music, and that's not cool. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not cool? I'm going to do the music I want to do, but yeah, I want success. I want to not worry about money for the first time in my life. And these kids they never had to worry about money.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that is. I didn't know what that felt like, until I had success, and I was like, yeah, you want that? Okay, sure. You want that? Okay. You want to borrow money? I don't give a shit. I love the fact that I lived in a house and I didn't have to worry about bills for the first time in my life. I didn't have to worry about it. And that's all I've ever wanted. Not lofty goals, but not worrying about money was an important thing for me.
Yeah.
And to be able to do it on my terms, doing it, playing in a rock and roll band. And here I am, 61. I've been through a bankruptcy, over water over my head and debt for years. Worked it down. Then, COVID came back. No work for COVID.
Yeah.
And I went back down again. Now, I don't owe anybody anything. And I got money in the bank. And I own a house. And I'm playing guitar. I'm doing some life coaching, building up, turning down clients, actually. And doing that, getting ready to write a book. Got a literary agent, not a book
Nice.
agent, a literary agent. And yeah, man, I'm just grateful. You know what I mean? I'm just grateful for everything. I'm grateful for the adversity. I'm grateful for COVID in a lot of ways, even though it almost killed me. I was in the hospital for almost a month with it. It was devastating. But that adversity makes us figure out a better way to do things. It's that old adage of that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's really true. In my world, it's really true.
Yeah, you had started to talk about sort of fame in the sobriety journey. So can we just touch back on that a little?
I mean, that's when I started using, even though I've been clean and sober for 34 years, I had a hard time during the fame time, in Portland, kind of a big fish in a small pond, going to meetings because people would break my anonymity constantly. I'd be somewhere at a Starbucks or somewhere and go, "Oh, you're Art from Everclear." I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, I don't really know or like your band, but you know what? My sister goes to meetings with you and she told me you were raped when you were 8. And that's just horrible. I really feel sorry for you." I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? I'm just trying to live my life.
Yeah.
I'm going to meetings, doing what I'm supposed to be doing, opening myself, surrendering, and other people are using it as a bargaining chip against me or for whatever. I don't know." And so I didn't feel safe going to meetings. So for a long time, and I'm not using that as an excuse because it would be an excuse, but I liked the buzz of now girls, even though I did pretty well with women always. Now it was like at a different level. It was like supermodels. These were girls in school that wouldn't even give me the time of day, right? And I was doing atrocious things to them and enjoying it. And just it just the I had never understood the responsibility of being a mensch, being a human being, and treating people in a human way. And I didn't really have those role models, not using that as an excuse. I know what was wrong and what was right. And I've left a lot of blood in the water over the years. Thank God my wife and I, who've been together almost 19 years, and she was considerably younger than me. I've never been unfaithful. I've dispersed myself emotionally, but I've learned through therapy and through the program how to act right at times when I'm in the program. So over 34 years, there's times when I'd be in the program and I'd be a good guy. And there's times when what we call dry drunk. Alcoholic mind was in the driver's seat. The reptile was in the driver's seat. Fuck this shit. Call your wife. Don't do that. Look at those girls over there. Both those girls. Go challenge yourself. Go get both those girls and take them back to your hotel room. Go ahead. Oh, wait a minute. Your bass player is talking to a nice, cute looking girl. Fucking go cock block him and go get that girl. And to Pete, you get dopamine from being with the girl, from being a dick. It's like, that's that id that I don't like to open up, because the monster's in there, dude. I got a monster in me, and most alcoholics do, one way
And
or another.
I think it's constant vigilance, right?
Well, yes, I think it's constant diligence, and it's more than that. Well, not more than that, but the vigilance to me is doing the work, constantly doing the work, being present, remembering, stay in my lane, do the work. If I have problems, talk to somebody about it. I have a therapist that is one of us, been sober for 15 years. And he grew up like me in a bad neighborhood, kind of a gangster, growing up on the East Coast. And now he's this great guy, and he's really helped me. And I started having issues, anger issues, and rage issues in 2020 when I had no income coming in, and the political shit show was going on, and the Black Lives Matter, and just everything was really, I was externalizing and internalizing everything. And my wife's like, you need to get back into therapy. Okay, I don't know how to do that. We can't even leave the house. You do it on Zoom. And she got a list of people, and I went through them and read their synopsises. And this one guy's like, I specialize in working with people in treatment and recovery. I'm like, and he's like, I done prison time. I did this and this. I go, this is my guy. This is a guy I could talk to. He gets it. And I talked to him for an hour on an intake. He goes, look, I'm overworked right now. I'm not taking anybody, but I will take you as a client, but you have to get into meetings immediately. Well, how the fuck am I going to get in a meeting? He goes, on Zoom, dumb shit. I'm like, oh. And so I call a friend of mine. He goes, man, there's this Tuesday night meeting that I do that, was an in-person meeting. And now it's a bunch of guys from the entertainment industry, older guys, and it's a safe place. And I'm like, safe place for sobriety. And I went to that Tuesday night meeting, and there's a Thursday and a Sunday and a Friday, that pretty much the same core of guys, and it's all stag. So I don't have that issue of going there to mac on girls and shit like that, or I don't have that temptation. And plus, I think sobriety's better. I love going to stag meetings. I'm still doing it almost 4 years later, 3.5 years later. And I just got asked to be of that Tuesday night meeting. I just got asked to be secretary of it. So I'm going to be the secretary of that meeting. And it's a big deal. And these guys come to my shows. I go to their shows and go to different events. And sometimes we'll have a meeting, like at someone's house. And it's just a great fellowship of guys. And my daughter, when she was about 12 or 13, was like so supportive, her and my wife both, of me going in the room and doing a meeting. She's like, Daddy, that's the best version of you I've ever known. And I love you, but that's the best version of you. And I'm like, what more do you got to say?
And I think that's an incredible note to end on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just to put that punctuation, it's about doing the work, not just the vigilance, having the vigilance, but doing the work for me and for just about every alcoholic or addict I know.
Yeah. And
anyway,
especially because our kids deserve the best version of us.
Absolutely. And if they're cognizant and aware enough to tell you that, I mean, how amazing is that? So you must have done something right in the first place to get them there, right? And I love when my daughter can tell me, yeah, I don't like this. This isn't cool. Okay, let's find a way that we can do it that we all feel safe with it. And having that communication with my family would not exist if it wasn't for my sobriety. Just wouldn't.
Thanks so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Good talk, brother. Good to meet you.
All right. Be well.
Same to you. Good luck with your family.
All right. Thanks. Thanks for listening. For more information, for links to any music or books we talked about, or to buy some Sober Dad Crew merchandise, please visit soberdadcrew.com.